Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Hendel Santarisi. I am your MC for tonight. I'm a member of the Middle East Crisis Committee and a co-founder of Maruf Connecticut Muslim Advocacy for Rights, Unity, and Fairness. We're united today to honor a man whose unwavering dedication to his duty and his people has earned him a nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize. Dr. Abu Safiya was taken hostage by the IDF in December 2024 after he refused to abandon his patients during the forced evacuation of Kamal Adwan Hospital. He has since been held in extreme conditions. Dr. Abu Safiya and all healthcare workers imprisoned by Israel for simply tending to their patients is a crime against humanity. Since October 2023, at least 1,722 healthcare workers have been killed in Israeli strikes. As we speak, Dr. Abu Safiya, along with 122 of his medical colleagues and over 10,000 other Palestinians, are being held in horrific conditions, most without charges or a semblance of due process. Since November 2025, our campaign to free Dr. Abu Safiya has launched a free drabusafiya.org website, hosted, in his own words, a live event reading his last posts before his abduction. The campaign produced banners used in vigils outside the hospitals and gathered signatures for an open letter where over 100 prominent people called for his release. And finally, the campaign successfully advocated for his nomination to the Nobel Peace Prize. Tonight, we celebrate his Nobel Peace Prize nomination and discuss next steps as we continue to advocate for Dr. Abu Safiya's freedom. So first, we are joined by distinguished speakers, but first I'd like to read the Nobel Peace Prize nomination. Dr. Abu Safiya was nominated by Carol Gray, Assistant Professor of Public Law in the Department of Political Science at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. In her statement to the Norwegian Nobel Institute in support of the nomination, she wrote, "It is my honor to nominate Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2026. He was born in Gaza in Jabalia refugee camp in 1973. Abu Safiya moved to Kazakhstan for higher education, where he obtained citizenship. He studied medicine at Ahmed Yasawi University in Kazakhstan, city of Turkestan. After graduating, Abu Safiya and his wife returned to Gaza in 1996, living in Jabalia. Abu Safiya went on to specialize in pediatrics and neonatology, obtaining a master's degree and passing the Palestinian board exam. He began working as a doctor for Gaza Health Ministry, going on to become the head of pediatric department of Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, a major hospital serving northern Gaza. In February 2024, Abu Safiya became the director of the hospital, replacing Ahmed Al-Kahlout, who has been seized by Israeli armed forces. In addition to his work at Kamal Adwan Hospital, Abu Safiya also acted as Med Global's lead physician in Gaza. Like all Gaza medical facilities, Kamal Adwan performed incredible work despite severe shortage and of essential supplies. And like all Gazans, Dr. Abu Safiya and his staff were intentionally starved, often arrested, even as its building endured siege and bombardment. Gamal Adwan Hospital suffered several military attacks starting in December 2023, continuing until its forced closure at the end of 2024. In an October 2024 attack, all the male staff of the hospital were detained with few being allowed back. Dr. Safiya was among those interrogated. During this Israeli assault, Dr. Abu Safiya's 15-year-old son, Ibrahim, was killed in a drone strike on the entrance of the hospital. A month later, the hospital's ICU director was killed in a drone strike. Abu Safiya himself was injured in his leg by shrapnel from a drone strike on the hospital while he was returning to his office after performing surgery. He remains unlawfully detained by Israel. Now we're going to hear from our keynote speaker, Dr. Kuemmerle. Dr. Karameh is an assistant professor of neurology at the Harvard Medical School and a co-founder of Doctors Against Genocide. Last May, Dr. Karameh was arrested for speaking against genocide at the congressional hearing. Dr. Karameh.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for the museum. Thank you for hosting this event. And my name is Karameh Kuemmerle. I'm the co-founder of Doctors Against Genocide. And I'm here in honor of Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya. Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya has a very personal connection to our organization, Doctors Against Genocide. We have a few members here, so we are all aware of how Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya was literally the start of our weekly webinar, the start of our serious advocacy. What happened is that he was the first doctor to join our weekly webinars, and he joined because his hospital was surrounded by tanks. And we started the webinars to raise awareness because of these tanks that were surrounding the hospital. We wanted to bear witness. We wanted to be in proximity to our colleagues in Kamal Adwan. We wanted their voices to be heard throughout the world. Dr. Hussam joined us when he was treating children in the hospital, and his hospital was surrounded by tanks and attacked repeatedly. On our webinar, he made an appeal to President Trump, pleading with him, asking that he should pressure the Israelis to allow the hospital, just the hospital, to remain open, to treat the children for injuries that they sustained because of attack by American jets and American weapons. We wrote a letter also to President Trump begging to keep the hospital open. And Dr. Abu Safiya, he's a very soft-spoken, very humble, very polite doctor. He's an exceptional human being. He was always somebody that we marveled. How can he keep his calm and be so gentle when things are so brutal around him? He left the hospital, walked to the Israeli tank, asking to speak to the commander, thinking that he will reason with this supposedly human being to keep the hospital open. And since that time, no one saw him at the hospital. He was incarcerated, and he has been in incarceration without charge ever since. And we have been screaming at the top of our lungs, free Dr. Abu Safiya, free Dr. Abu Safiya. And it has been more than a year. He was incarcerated on the 27th of December 2024. He has since lost 40 kilograms, not pounds. in this illegal incarceration. He is enduring brutal, vindictive torture. We saw Dr. Safiya in tears burying his own son before he was arrested. He himself was shot in the hospital in his leg, and he was treated in the hospital and at the same time treating his patients because he was the specialist. He had to do things that he never trained to do because the surgeons were killed and the orthopedic surgeons were abducted. So as a pediatrician, he needed to do things that were beyond his expertise. Since then, we have been inspired by Dr. Abu Safiya, and we continue to support our colleagues in Gaza, and we continue to have a community every Sunday of the medical professionals in Gaza to speak to us, educate us. We choose to be with them every minute. We choose to be with them, and we do not look away. We refuse to leave them alone, and we refuse to pretend that nothing is happening to them. And since then, we have had Dr. Al-Farra, Dr. Abu Rish, Dr. Abu Salmiya, Dr. Saqar, so many amazing individuals who have become household names to us, and we speak in their name, and they always educate us, and they always inspire us, and they are the light in our lives, believe it or not. Even though they are in Gaza, suffering this brutal genocide, they manage to keep us going and give us hope. So just about our organization, and Phil and Martha and Aideen are here, and maybe others, Omar. We have found ourselves together in community after the genocide in Gaza. And Doctors Against Genocide is Palestinian-led. We are Palestinian. We are Palestinian medical healthcare workers. And we founded the organization because we grew up under occupation. And the organization was born from the awareness of injustice that we endured under occupation, where our humanity was treated as conditional and our fundamental human rights were systematically denied. And we do not accept that. We do not accept it for ourselves. We do not accept it for others. We do not accept it for our people. So we had to do something. We have one universal mission. Genocide is preventable. It is a man-made catastrophe, and the medical community has the duty to recognize early warning signs and tell truth plainly, and never again should be for everyone, not just for one group of people, and it should be for all of us. Gaza made our mission unavoidable because we are witnessing mass killing, destruction of a population through the systematic dismantling of healthcare, hospitals, and even the killing of clinicians and first responders. Everyone who has a white coat is under threat in Gaza. Even though now we have a ceasefire, we know that this ceasefire is not a real ceasefire. The doctors are still seeing mass casualties, and people are being targeted. Police officers are needed in Gaza. We just heard a couple of days ago, 4 of them were killed by drones because Israel does not want a normal structure for life in Gaza. We reflect on our work as doctors, as nurses, as healthcare professionals against genocide in honor of Dr. Abu Safiya and in honor of all the Palestinian healthcare workers that continue to work under conditions designed to break human life. But they refuse to leave their hospitals. They refuse to leave their clinics, and they kept the spaces open for patients even when they did not have a single medication to give. Because for them, having a clinic open or having a hospital open is a declaration of hope. Our colleagues in Gaza also inspire us to be excellent physicians and excellent nurses and people who really care about life. And I see that every day when I'm in clinic. I feel when I see patients or when I'm in my hospital, I feel that I'm privileged to be able to give medicine and to treat and to take care of my patients and to refer them to others, order scans, MRIs. I do not take this for granted anymore. And that makes me a better clinician. I know that. And despite the destruction that has befallen Gaza, believe it or not, we continue to be inspired by our colleagues. Their skill is extraordinary, their teams are exceptional, and I'm not saying this lightly. They're under siege, scarcity, displacement, grief, and constant danger. They continue to practice with exceptional rigor, ingenuity, and courage. We work with a group of two nurses who work with the visually impaired community in Gaza, and the reports that they make, it's very high level reporting, research. It's very impressive, to say the least. To honor Dr. Abu Safiya is not to speak his name alone, but to act in accordance with what his example demands, that we refuse abandonment, we defend the sanctity of healthcare and protect those who heal others and insist on accountability for those who destroy. We remain in the corner of our people in Palestine and of every threatened people every minute of the day, documenting evidence, protecting healthcare workers, mobilizing institutions, demanding accountability. To us, our oath is a mandate for disciplined, organized, and sustained protection of life. I would like to share with you some pictures. This is Dr. Abu Safiya walking to the tank, thinking that he will be speaking to a human being, not a monster, who has taken him, as you see, in that big tank, and we have not seen him yet since then. And genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity are a barrier to improvement in global health, and that's why you see the medical community speaking up. Not all of us, but those who actually care about life are all speaking up.
Thank you, Dr. Karameh, for your presentation and for your advocacy along with all Doctor Against Genocide members. Now we move to our next, our speakers, our other speakers. Our first speaker, Rabbi Abi Chavat Stein, unfortunately cannot join us today. She sends her regrets, and we're sorry going to miss her, but she's not feeling well. Rabbi Stein mobilized her community in opposition to the escalating violence against Palestinians. Our next speaker, Dr. Phil Brewer. Dr. Brewer, one of the founding faculty in emergency medicine at Yale School of Medicine and Yale New Haven Hospital. Dr. Brewer is...
Can you repeat his name? I'm sorry.
Phil Brewer.
Phil Brewer, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Brewer is leader in healthcare workers for Palestine. He's led the weekly informational picket near Yale New Haven Hospital for over a year. So Dr. Phil, please come along.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the organizers and the hosts. I'm going to do sort of a two-part presentation. The first is just pretend that I'm Dr. Abu Safiya's press agent, arguing why he should be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. So why Dr. Abu Safiya should be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. So the selection of recipients of this prize is a process that, in theory, recognizes individuals who embody courage, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to humanity in the face of adversity. Ideally, it recognizes those who preserve life and dignity amid violence and despair. The choice has been politicized at times, and it has gone to individuals who do not represent the values that the prize was meant to embody. Recipients such as Henry Kissinger, Barack Obama, some of you will disagree with that, and Maria Corina Machado come to mind. The last one having further sullied the award by handing it over to Donald Trump at the White House. And she's still not going to be president. In the best of cases, laureates have distinguished themselves by their devotion to humanitarian principles, often in the face of great personal danger. This group would include Karl von Ostieski, a German journalist and humanitarian and democracy advocate who died in a Nazi concentration camp after spending his career as a journalist trying to warn the German people of what was going to happen if Nazism took over. And indeed, it did, and he paid for it with his life. Nargis Hamadi, an Iranian feminist, I'm from the Midwest, so I say Iranian, if you don't mind. An Iranian feminist who was imprisoned at the time of the award and continues to be imprisoned in spite of failing health. And Dr. Denis Mukwege, a Congolese gynecologist known for his work with victims of sexual violence, which of course has been rampant in all of these wars going on in the Congo and elsewhere. He narrowly survived an assassination attempt, and his bodyguard and driver was killed. So, personal danger. Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya stands as a powerful representative of this latter group. As director of Kuemmerle Hospital in Beit Lahia, his dedication to medical service under conditions of extreme danger, loss, and hardship, and his refusal to obey repeated orders issued by the Israeli occupation force to abandon critically ill patients who would die in the midst of a genocide represent the very ideals of the Nobel Peace Prize for which it was created. First and foremost, Dr. Abu Safiya's work demonstrates extraordinary courage. Practicing medicine in a conflict zone requires more than medical skill. I've not exactly practiced in a conflict zone. I have been to Haiti 8 times after the earthquake, and so I have some idea of practicing medicine in a place that, as they say, is resource poor, and where our safety was constantly guarded by armed guards carrying heavy weaponry. But I was never threatened. I was never arrested or anything like that. While others, so practicing medicine, it demands personal sacrifice and moral strength, while others may flee violence to protect themselves and their families. And in fact, some did. And you can't argue with that. They did what they felt was the thing to do for themselves and their families. But Dr. Abu Safiya did not flee, even though it came at a great personal cost when his son was killed in an Israeli drone strike at the entrance to the hospital. His son was volunteering at the hospital. And as you may or may not know, the comings and goings of the doctors at the hospitals were followed by drones with software supplied by Palantir and such companies, and they were targeted. And it was a very frequent occurrence that a drone would follow them home, and once they were home with their families and their relatives, a rocket would arrive and kill everybody. That happened over and over again. So his son was killed at the entrance to the hospital, and later he himself was critically wounded by an Israeli drone inside the hospital. As I understand, he had a femoral artery lesion. You bleed to death in just a few minutes if you cut your femoral artery. And luckily, if luck is a word for this, he was in the emergency department when this happened. And also, as I understand, a tank had shelled the hospital and there was a big hole in the wall of the emergency department. And this Israeli drone flew through that hole inside the department. He was wounded in that attack. In spite of constant threat of airstrikes, severe shortages, or complete lack of medical supplies, such as anesthetics, he tended meaning he took care of wave after wave of incoming patients injured in airstrikes, tank shellings, drone attacks, and sniper attacks. His only goal was to ensure that others had a chance to live. This willingness to put human life above personal security reflects a profound commitment to peace, because peace begins with the preservation of life itself. By choosing to heal instead of retreat, Dr. Abu Safiya sent a powerful message that compassion must endure, even in the darkest circumstances. This message was captured on December 27th, 2024, in this iconic photograph of Dr. Abu Safiya as he walked between the ruined buildings to an Israeli armored personnel carrier. Everybody calls it a tank, but it was an APC, but same thing. That the hospital had been evacuated, because as I understand it, and there's some different reports of this, as Karameh said, they were told several times, you have to leave, to empty the hospital out. This time, he was told, we are going to destroy this hospital. Everybody has to leave. There is no choice. And so he made sure that the hospital was empty and reported that back to this officer. They made a video of that encounter, and the video shows a certain amount of cordiality. They shook hands. They had a conversation. What they didn't do a video of was, following that, they beat him up as they arrested him. So that was his last gesture that we saw. The goal of preserving human life before he and 240 other male hospital personnel were taken into custody and transferred to an Israeli military prison where he remains to this day. Again, severe conditions, subject to electric shocks, in an underground, unheated, cold cell, no fresh air, never allowed outside in sunlight. Beatings by prison guards, including one in June of 2025 that lasted 30 minutes and resulted in several broken ribs and severe bruising to his face and head and neck and back. He did lose 40 kilos. To put that in a little bit more context, his original starting weight was 100 kilos. So he went to 60 kilos. Imagine what a man looks like, approximately my height, who only weighs 60 kilos. And that's where he is now. The lack of food has resulted in severe malnutrition with the loss of over 40 kilos. He's been deprived of treatment for chronic hypertension and a heart condition and has developed signs of congestive heart failure during his imprisonment. He's being held without charge and without access to legal counsel, for which there have only been 3 exceptions. He's only had, to my knowledge, 3 visits in this more going on 2 years with lawyers. And each one of those visits was preceded and especially followed by another beating. And there's serious concern as to his survival as these brutal and harsh conditions continue. He may not survive to see his hospital rebuilt, which in a way makes it all the more important to rebuild it. He's in even greater danger now that war has broken out. And this is my second point. Following the unprovoked attack by Israel and the United States on Iran, even as news coverage of genocide in Gaza plummeted following the so-called ceasefire of October 10th, 2025, it will be even further suppressed by this war, which will get all of the attention. And what happens to the 10,000 plus Palestinians who are in detention, including Dr. Abu Safiya, we won't get any news about, except what leaks out. I've been following the front page of the New York Times, and for the past, I think I'm up to 3 months now, or close to it, there hasn't been a single front page article about Gaza.
Because of the events that took place since yesterday, when the US and Israel are launching a war on Iran. Stanley with us here. He is the administrator for promoting enduring peace and Middle East Crisis Committee.
Unfortunately, we must talk about the war against Iran even at this event. I want to critique the tepid opposition to this war from the politicians who said virtually nothing as Trump mobilized forces around Iran and now have criticism. One hears them say this is not a war of defense but a war of choice. That is incorrect. International law does not give a country the right to make a choice of war for its real or imagined interests. The kind of warfare we see has a special name: aggression. This is a war of aggression, an international war crime. It's also obviously a violation of the US Constitution. That document does not give the president the power to start a war. That's a power of Congress, and usurping that power is a high crime against the constitutional order. Now, one hears the tepid opposition call for Congress to put in effect the War Powers Act. But read that law. It doesn't require the president to immediately stop military attacks. It requires the president to withdraw forces after 60 days. 60 days. That's 2 months of mayhem. What's needed is a far more robust opposition. And we're seeing the start of that in the angry demonstrations in the US and across the world. Let's not bother with the excuses and lies made for starting this war. For some people, war is an end in itself because it is a prime tool for the creation of fascism. The former Yale historian Timothy Snyder, a few days ago, spelled it out. He wrote, "Wars are a tool of undermining and undoing democracies. The relationship between foreign war and domestic authoritarianism can take two basic forms. One, we must all rally because there's a war, and everyone who opposes the war is a traitor. Two, we must hold elections under specific conditions favorable to the party in power." That logic is shown most clearly in Israel. Its Prime Minister, Netanyahu, has been arrested for corruption and has been on trial for years. It's a trial that will go on forever because Israel is supposedly always under existential attack. Now, I don't want to pretty up the regime in Iran. It's awful. Just 2 months ago, it massacred 7,000 of its citizens. Our solidarity should go to the Iranian people and not to the regime. An Iranian wrote this on Facebook yesterday. As an Iranian, I can tell you the situation is no longer just political, it's existential. We are trapped between two collapsing structures, one internal, one external. On the one hand, we face a deeply dysfunctional government led by the supreme leader and the Islamic Republic's unelected institutions. Decades of economic mismanagement, suppression of dissent, and brutal ideological control have alienated multiple generations. No one believes in reform anymore because every attempt has either been co-opted or crushed. But here's the paradox. We're also terrified of regime collapse because we've watched the aftermath of Western intervention in countries like Iraq, Libya, Syria, and Afghanistan. Each was promised freedom, each descended into chaos, civil war, and foreign occupation. Law and morality don't require a perfect victim. Basic law and decency don't allow invasion because one country preaches that another is rotten and evil. And the US and Israel, who collaborate in an ongoing genocide, who blow up hospitals and schools, who killed over 100 at a girls' school in Iran, they are the very last governments qualified to preach about liberation and freedom. As for what needs to be done, I suggest we fight like Minnesotans. That is, like the people of Minneapolis, who turned out in their thousands to struggle against the ICE Gestapo, to challenge and disrupt the forces of violence, hatred, racism, and fascism. Stop the war. US out of the Middle East.
Yeah.
Free Dr. Abu Safiya, free Palestine. Free Dr. Abu Safiya, free Palestine. Free Dr. Abu Safiya, free Palestine. Free Dr. Abu Safiya, free Palestine.